Kristen Camella.
Hello.
I'm getting used to this.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, me too. We have a guest today.
I'm very excited about our guest.
Yeah, I am too. And I want to say her name correctly. So I'm going to ask the guest to correct me after I say it incorrectly.
Perfect.
Okay? RoseMarie, right? Is it RoseMarie or RoseMarie? I'm just going to go with it. RoseMarie Toussaint.
That's perfect.
Dr.
RoseMarie Toussaint.
Dr. RoseMarie.
Forgive me. Dr. RoseMarie Croissant. No, I know, Toussaint.
No T at the end.
And since you're a doctor, I have a serious question for you. Why do men have nipples?
I have no idea. I think you'll have to ask the creator.
Kristen, can you pass along the question and get back to me as the creator?
Oh, yes.
I mean, it just seems kind of silly and unnecessary, right?
I was curious to see what she might say. Maybe there was a medical reason.
Okay. I
have
would
no
like to know.
idea.
If anybody wants
But
to
I've
type
heard
it into
that
the
I have
comments.
no
men-
idea why we have two eyes.
I've heard of men lactating, like especially in a need.
Really?
Like all of a sudden the woman was gone and then the man started lactating.
Doctor, have you ever heard of such a thing?
No, I've never.
Okay.
Heard of such a-
So I met you not as a medical doctor, but I met you as, I'm going to say, a breath specialist, a yoga person, somebody from that realm, right?
Definitely.
So I will tell you honestly, you struck me as somebody who's very calm and tranquil and at peace, and that's the way you carry yourself. Are you surprised to hear me say that, or do you know that about yourself?
I know that about myself because I really can see the difference before I really started doing this practice, that I was not calm. I was mostly a lot of time overwhelmed by different emotions. But after the practice, you get to a space where, stress could be there, but you don't have to react to it. You could still be at peace no matter what's going on around you.
So are there like two distinctively different segments of your life, like two different chapters? The people who were in your world and universe when you were practicing surgeon, do they know you as somebody different than the people who know you now?
I would say so. Because I would say that in the past, I was more not listening to people, more kind of manipulating and directing. So if you look at the training of a doctor, it's like, what's wrong and I can fix it. Whereas in this space, it's more like getting to know what's important to you and assisting you in achieving what's important to you. So I don't have a prescription. I technically connect with you to see what your needs are and what your possibilities are.
Were both of those innate for you, and one just rose up at a different chapter in your life?
No, I think what was innate for me was actually kind of the space that I'm in now as a child. But then when I started being trained in the Western medical system, it was like, what's wrong and how do I fix it? And I will help you fix it. Versus now, so initially I think I would say that I was born a healer. I always want to help people and listen to people. But then the training kind of took me away from that. So now I'm getting it back.
Is it possible it was necessary for your evolution to go through it?
Definitely. I would say, and I think part of what I sense my purpose is to be able to merge, to marry the old and ancient with the modern, to really get us to a point where we can evolve as a species.
You're from Haiti, correct?
I was born in Haiti.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about that. I would like first, Kristen, I remember you telling me about her before I actually met her, and it was like this, I can't believe I ran into her. It was like one of these experiences that you said can't be a coincidence. You want to share that?
Yeah, so about a year or more before I actually met her, she happened to be with a group who had come into the clinic where we were doing some stem cell work, and we met in that kind of environment. She was a physician, and we met, surgeon, and nothing really came of that meeting. It was just kind of worlds colliding. We were meeting in the clinic, and probably a year after that, I got connected with the Art of Living Foundation and started practicing a specific type of meditation breath work called Sudarshan Kriya or sky breath. And probably 4 months after I first learned about that organization and started doing some of those meditation practices, I was looking for groups that were doing the meditation together, like a meetup. And I found one in South Miami. And when I walked into that meditation, she happened to be leading it. And she recognized me first. She said, "We've met before." And I was like, no, I'm nobody. I'm just here to meditate. And I almost kind of wanted to just disappear in the crowd and meditate.
Did you think she meant like in another lifetime?
No, I didn't even know what she meant. I was like, no, nobody knows anybody. I got to breathe and I'm going to get out of here. And then she texted me later and said, "I know, I met you in the clinic. I was like a year ago." And I just thought it was fascinating. Like, there's no way this is just by chance that we have now been brought together multiple times. But what I'm very excited for our guests to learn about her. And I would love it if, Doctor, you would kind of go back and explain kind of your background, how you got into everything, and we'll tell our audience everything about yourself.
Before you do, and I want you to do that, I mentioned Haiti, and in the last chapter, you had a book, right?
Mm-hmm. I did.
And the book was called?
Never Question the Miracle, a Surgeon Story.
And it's the story of a young girl in Haiti.
Born in Haiti.
Was told by a voodoo priestess, if I have that correct?
Yes.
That she was going to grow up to be a physician, which circumstances didn't really appear as if that was the trajectory that was ahead. But sure enough, that was the miracle, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to start all the way back there, or do you want to start in the surgeon days? It's up to you. You take it.
Well, I think the miracle was that if you look at, the U.S. when I was here, I mean, as a transplant surgeon, it's a story of a girl born in Haiti, the poorest country of the Western Hemisphere, and becoming a transplant surgeon in this country, doing liver and kidney transplant. So that's the miracle in a way, because if you look at my past, it's like, oh my God. I mean, I remember seeing my high school counselor. It was like, no, you don't want to go to college. Why don't you just go and become a nurse or a technician? You don't have to fly away and go to college somewhere in medical school. And I went back to my mom and I said, this counselor told me that I couldn't become a doctor. And she laughed and she called the school and said, please, just give whatever my daughter wants, you need to just go ahead and point her to the right direction. So when I went back to her, they kind of helped me get into a college, and which is Loyola University in New Orleans. So I flew from Miami to New Orleans to become a pre-med student. And becoming a surgeon was, being in Western medicine was part of my healing urge in a way. But I always thought of medicine as a service. I mean, when I learned that medicine was a business, I cried. And I was a transplant surgeon then. And it was like, whoa. So
I feel like that was such a profound statement. Can
Yeah.
you just say that one more time?
Tell me, what do you want me to say?
That you always thought medicine was a service, and that when
Yeah.
you learned it was a business, you cried.
Yeah, I cried because I just felt that if you're so intricately involved with people that you really want their well-being at hand, that you're not really making business. And I remember as a child, I used to say all the time, I want to go to medical school not to pay my mortgage. I want to, because that's my passion, that's my love. And I didn't really see it as a way for me making money. And so when I realized it was really a business, it was something. I mean, it was a letdown for me in terms of the world where it is.
Yeah, I want to tell you that I just finished writing an article for doctors, and this is in a publication that tells doctors how to be successful following their dream rather than kind of caving and just following the insurance model and doing what they do because it's robotic. This is how to really live your dream and make money. And I use the term reluctant entrepreneur because very few of them really want to be an entrepreneur. So it's interesting that when I meet, I'm going to say ethical, caring doctors who really stay true to that thing in their heart that drove them there in the first place. They don't like the business idea of it. They don't. Yeah. They love being a healer. And it gets a little cloudy, I think, right? Yeah,
it definitely does. I mean, being a healer means truly having that person's well-being in mind. And so what I see a lot in the Western model, and I really don't want to blame it because, it's necessary at times, your blood pressure is really high and you come in the office, I'm not going to ask you to meditate. I'm going to put you on a medication, period. And I can afterwards we can start talking about other holistic stuff. But initially, Western medicine when it comes on an acute illness, it's really absolutely essential. But when you think about prevention, chronic medical problem, we need to start looking at lifestyle modification and really empowering the patient because they know their body when we're dealing with chronic illnesses.
Yeah. Kristen and I speak a great deal about the innate power that we have to heal, the immune system, the parasympathetic system. We're born with this incredible ability to heal. It seems that Western medicine has moved into a place where it's forgotten, that part of medicine. And when you talk about mixing the ancient with the modern, it's unfortunate that so much of the ancient has been omitted. Asclepius, the Greek father of medicine, whose name was in the original Hippocratic Oath, had two daughters. One was Panacea and one was Hygeia. Panacea was the goddess of remedies and interventions. Hygeia was the goddess of what we would call wellness and self-care. And medicine seems to have forgotten about Hygeia. And I think you've moved past that single-minded part of medicine back to this holistic idea. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at the human being, is that in a way for us to evolve, we have to connect with the aspect of ourselves that is beyond have and not have, white and black, have money and not have money, because that aspect of ourselves is where the true healing happen. So what I'm urging, and really my passion is to empower the healer within us, because within us is that aspect that knows it all, that is will almost never born, never dies. And so when we connect with that, that's where, and that aspect doesn't need healing, really, doesn't need medication. It's just connecting and continually connecting to that aspect of our nature. And that's where
what do you call that aspect of our nature? Do you give it a name?
I think it's the higher self. It's the higher mind. It's the God within us. It's the higher. It's the soul.
It life force? Is it something that connects us all?
Yeah, the force energy. I like that. That aspect that really connects us, because it's like part of the breath is when you take a deep breath and you take it with awareness. You welcoming that aspect that is the life force energy, the prana, the chi, the ki, different depending on different societies. But that aspect is truly beyond, have and not. Illness and health. It is and it's empowered. It's love. It's peace. It's sustainable peace.
I love the word healer, but I don't love the overuse of that word. In other words, I see a lot of people with business cards that say healer. They heal with crystals, they heal with Reiki, and many of them probably do. But I think when an individual believes that he or she is the healer, that's where I think the lines are blurred a little bit. What I believe is that a healer is truly access to the divine, is the kind of intermediary. Would you agree or not?
I agree that within each one of us is the healer. So in other words, and the true healing, what happened when my divine self connect with your divine self, because that aspect of yourself needs no healing.
It's perfect.
So each one of it, it's perfect. It needs no training, no medication, no courses, no workshops. So really part of, true healing is to connect with that and assisting others in connecting with it. It's not that we've lost it, we don't have it. It's our innate nature. And our innate nature is love. We say that love is an emotion. It's not. It's really our true nature. And
did you lose any of that when you were a transplant surgeon?
I did.
I don't know. You'll tell us more.
Yeah.
But I don't know if when you're actually taking an organ out of somebody's body, if you're connecting with what we would call their mind or spirit. Are you?
I would say that there's some stories that says that part of that, that intrinsic aspect of their nature is kind of within the transplanted recipient. And I would say that that's a possibility. But one of the things that I've seen in patients that I have is I connect with their spirit. And sometimes I get knowledge that I don't even know. And sometimes it's scary for other people. But when we connect with the aspect of ourselves that knows, it's like it knows everything. And but it requires for us to get deep and to go beyond the emotions that are really so overwhelming for so many of us. Go beyond the thoughts, because the thoughts is not who we are. And connecting with that aspect take us beyond the world of duality.
Have you saved lives?
I don't think so. I would think I have.
Is there one in particular that comes to mind when I ask that question?
This one that I technically didn't save, but I remember being in the operating room and this patient was truly losing it. And I mean, I was there like for 5 or 6 hours trying to take a liver out, and I couldn't take it out. And I went with Fan, and I'm like, God, I can no longer, humanly possible, I can no longer, save this person on this table. I don't want him to die on my clock. All of us surgeons, we like the idea. We don't want people to die on our clock, on our table while we're operating. So I went in there and says, I don't know what else to do, so you got to take over. Everybody in the room, the anesthesiologist was calling, you got to stop. He's bleeding out. I need some more time. I need to take him up because he's really bleeding out. And I went to a space and saying, I don't know what else to do. But when I say that and I surrender, everybody was still yelling, but it wasn't really affecting me. But what was happening is that it's like my mind as a human being doing one step, one at a time, was no longer there. I was just, it's like my hands were moving, but I was not directing it. And when he made it off the table, people went, well, how did you do that? I'm like, I don't know. After like 9 hours of operating and now the liver's in. And then I realized that, there's some people that are not ready to die. We could do some intervention. And that patient, though, later on, he actually died. And I cried. That was my first patient when I cried because I realized on the table, I didn't save him. It's like the divine came and did the work through me. But then later on, he died. It's like, well, why did you, why? I didn't understand that. But
did you ever get an answer to that? Why God, or whatever you call it, divine, why did you do that? Why did you take the wheel and then let him die?
I think at time we can do some intervention to maybe delay what needs to happen, but sooner or later it's gonna take place.
But is it possible that was for you rather than for the patient?
I think it was for both, but he was ready to go and I was holding on because I remember, trying. He became comatose and I was kind of asking him, "Do you want to stay alive like this, comatose?" And he said no, but I kept wanting to keep him alive, and then he did make it, and I realized there's something we cannot change. No matter what we do as human beings.
Yeah, I'm tempted to take this in a lot of directions, but I won't because we're going to have you back
so
again
many
and again
questions.
and again. Yeah, but Kristen, I know that you wanted to ask her something or something.
So at what point did you really start integrating, meditation into your practice, or maybe moving away from traditional medicine? Walk us through that. Like, how was it something sudden that happened, or was kind of over time?
I think it was over time. I think one of the, aspect when I really was doing Western medicine, I became to the point where I realized that I was telling people to do certain things that I would not do for myself. So, and in addition to that, I just didn't have any time really to do true spiritual work, which is really that's my passion also. True healing, divine healing. And so I realized that number one is for me to be on a spiritual path, I had to be authentic. I couldn't tell some medication that I would never take myself. And so I started kind of realizing that if I wanted to go spiritually, that I had to be authentic. And the system is not, a lot of the system will not allow you to be authentic because certain thing you got to do, you got to give certain medication, and some people do need surgery. And so I had to kind of, it was almost like a fork in the road. And I took some time off because I wanted to do some spiritual work.
And so can you give us examples of, maybe patients or, just clients that you've met over the years that have come through some of the meditation practices where their lives were changed and either, they weren't needing medications? And I know there's been a lot of studies published, but just give us an idea of kind of the profound nature of the breath work and really getting in touch with the divine self, as you call it.
Well, I think if you look at the human being, we really have different level that we exist. It's like, part of that existence is existing as a physical body. And then the breath is another aspect because, as a human being, breathing is essential. But breathing brings that life force energy. And, we don't, in terms of looking at the breath work, we don't really teach people how to breathe because every one of us breathe, naturally and voluntarily.
Oh, we teach people how to breathe, but go ahead. We'll come back to that.
Well, the true spiritual transformation happen when you welcome the breath. So you become aware of the breath. Because when you become aware of the breath, you're automatically in the present moment. We can create. The breath is also very much connected with the emotions. So what we've seen is people that come in very anxious, people that have definite anxiety disorders, or very depressed, or very angry, and they take this breath work and they can transform their emotions to a more manageable emotion in terms of that. But then the other thing is just connecting with aspect of ourselves that is beyond what you're going through. And the more we do that, the more we realize that our thoughts, our emotions, our intellect, and our ego are not all who we are. So you connect with an aspect, which is the true self, that most of us don't have that awareness. But that can take you to a space where you can really become a true healer and be able to create miracle of healing in your own life and also in others.
So I also I thought I read something, and correct me if I'm wrong, doctor, that there were some studies where they were implementing some of this breath work into some of the different hospitals and working with patients, and some of the studies associated with implementing that breath work and how the patients were recovering. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those studies?
Yeah, we have some recent studies that actually published by one of the psychiatric journal, and it looked like for example, this was a bit back there, but the point is that the tsunami in 2004. So what we saw is so I'm part of an organization called the Art of Living Foundation. It's a non-profit educational and humanitarian organization created by Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. So I'm a volunteer teacher for the last 13 years, and I've been in the foundation for 15 years. So whenever there's a disaster, we send a group of volunteer teachers to teach. And I wasn't one of them. But what they saw is when they got into to the Far East, there were so many people were stressed by what happened, the tsunami. And so we could not have courses for everyone, but we took everyone in, we took their information. And so it almost naturally created a group that was ready, that we actually did. And then there was another group that was waiting. So when we compare the group that took the course and the group that was waiting, we saw how they were transformed. The stress level was there initially. I mean, they were anxious. I mean, they had all the, the traumatic effect of going through a disaster like that. And we compared to the people that were waiting, a total difference. The people that went to the course, their stress level were totally decreased. They were, they were not happy about what happened, but they had peace of mind. And that's this thing about happiness and versus peace of mind, is that you can have peace of mind no matter what's going on around you. So their stress level were down to almost minimal, whereas the people that were waiting, their stress level continued to rise and increase. So we had statistically significant improvement from the practice for people who actually did the course versus people who did not do the course. And there are some also other data, and data that suggest that the stress hormone cortisol is decreased after you do the course. And also prolactin is increased, which is a good feeling hormone in a way. It's actually increased. So a lot of the physiological benefit we actually see after I've practiced the course are evident and are written in peer-reviewed journals.
I went through 10 days of spiritual getting my ass kicked. Mm-hmm. Unexpected. And it's a story for another time. But along this road, I met somebody who said to me, you need to breathe. And I just kind of shook it off. Like, I breathe every day. She goes, no, you need to breathe. So it was midnight, and we were outside, and she had me lay in a lounge chair, and she just created a rhythm and said, breathe through your belly, breathe through your chest. And she created this rhythm. And next thing I knew, I started to see colors, almost fireworks. And then at first it was effort to follow that rhythm, and then it just kind of happened. And I went somewhere, I don't know where. And then after, and it was a long time, it felt like 5 minutes, but it was literally an hour and a half that I was in this state. And after I opened my eyes, and the teacher was sitting over me. There's a moon behind her. It was like this beautiful moment. I could see her hair blowing, and I was so relaxed. And I said, are we done? And she said, yeah. And I said, did it go the way it was supposed to? And she said it was perfect. And I said, I can get up now? And she said, yeah. And RoseMarie, I could not move. I don't know why. To this day, I don't know why. I was literally paralyzed. And rather than having panic, I thought it was the funniest thing. And I don't think I ever laughed that hard. And the next hour, I could not stop laughing. I lay there like an idiot with tears rolling down my face, hysterical crying. So can you, number one, are you surprised by that story? And number two, can you explain in any way what happened to me?
Well, I actually remember something very similar, but not as dramatic as yours, which is really beautiful. Is that when I first did this breathing and I sat up and I was like, wow. I mean, you go to a space so deep. It's like when I kind of woke up, I'm like, where did I go? I didn't know. It's like I went within myself in a aspect of myself that I didn't know existed. And you come back and with this happiness that you have. It's happiness, it's peaceful, it's calm, and it's like going home. And so this idea of being so happy, it's like fun. It's almost like, what I'm sensing from what you say and what I experience is like, it's like you were on a journey home and all of a sudden you got there and you were welcome and you were at peace and you felt loving and just joyful. And so that is that space that's within us. When you get to that space, it's like, it's unbelievable. It's really finding the fountain of youth. Those it's like unlimited source of happiness and calmness. And that's the space of that higher self that is not affected by this world.
So I'll be honest enough to say, had I not gone through those challenging 10 days, I would never have been open to that. Like if somebody said, let's do some breath work, I'd go, nah. We're going to lay down and breathe. I'd say, nah, I'm going to go lift weights. It had no appeal to me at all. I couldn't understand it. So I really had to be pushed to a certain level to even be open to it. So I'm curious, as you now teach what you teach, if you were to speak to a room of conventional doctors in Western medicine, are they even open to this, or are they sort of in a totally different place?
What's happening in Western medicine is doctors are very stressed. So they're looking for answers. And one thing about this training is like, it's not a didactic presentation. You can do a didactic presentation, but the true aspect is allowing them to really have like you're saying, having that experience. Having the experience really, it goes beyond the mind and the intellect and the ego and deep. And then you wake up and go, oh my God. There was a neurosurgeon who took this course and he got up and says, oh my God, we can transform the world with these breathing techniques. I mean, but the point is, if I had presented to him, he would have never said that. But then, like you said, you have to go to that experience, and it's inexplicable, but it's there, and it's powerful, and it's peaceful, and it's happy.
And being somebody who was always very grounded in the physical until a certain point in my life, once you go through that doorway, then you realize there's something more. In other words, until I had an experience, you couldn't convince me there's something more. There is what I see, what I sense with my 5 senses, but having had those 10 days and the experience with the breath work, I don't know what there is, but I know there's something more than I ever understood before. And I think that creates not only curiosity, but a magnetic pull. You want to know what this thing is, so you put your foot in the water and then you go a little deeper and a little deeper and you see how far it takes you.
And instead of being a wave, you become the ocean, very deep.
So the first time that I did the course and, we did the breath work, it was, such a mind-blowing experience for me. And prior to that, I never really understood meditation or got it. Oftentimes I would be at conferences, I would go to a lot of physician conferences or scientific conferences, and sometimes there would be a side room with like a meditation practice, and I would go in and it would be like lovely guided meditation, and we're walking through the forest and the water and the trees, and I couldn't do it. I literally could not sit there and do it. I'd be worrying about emails and, if the kids are doing their homework, I couldn't do it. I could not sit for 5 minutes. And, similar type thing, like, I'm going to go
By the way,
do some
telling
weights.
yourself all along that you could not do it.
Yes. And they had no interest in this is stupid. Like, who cares about the trees? I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And so finally, I just kept hearing people talk about this experiences in breath work. I'm like, there's got to be more to this. So I need to just put my math brain to the side and just go all in and trust. And so the first time that I did the course, and I've now taken the course several times and done some of the deeper courses. They have a silent retreat. Just amazing. And the organization is just amazing. An amazing nonprofit. I've really kind of enjoyed every moment. And the first time that we did the breath work, I had an experience of standing next to myself, looking at myself, and, just feeling like, if I had to change course or pathway or, it was okay and I could still be me. And, just almost a realization that everything was going to be okay, in the midst of a challenging life type situation, and tears and laughter and this huge release. And I do daily practice now with the breath work, and I do the longer practice about once per week. And every time is a different experience, but always this feeling of peace. And so for anyone who's listening right now saying this is hokey, you put your ego aside and dive in and give it a try. I'm telling you, the experience can be profound.
I agree. I agree. But I'll also say this, full knowing that it's true. Some people are just not ready.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
that doesn't mean forever. It means until they have a moment, an experience, they get crushed. They may not be open, and that's okay too. So I think the timing has to be right. RoseMarie shows up in your life on the right day, in the right way, with the right message. And that doesn't mean everybody today is ready to hear that.
And it's just funny that she showed up in my life about a year before I ended up kind of diving into it. So, good point. Maybe I wasn't ready.
I've, after kind of that door opened for me, I became really curious. And I started reading and I started studying everything from Kabbalah to Buddhism, just trying to find the thread that runs through all of it. I know incredible rabbis and I know incredible pastors. And I think, somebody's got to be wrong. Like these people believe one way, but there's got to be a thread that runs through all of it. And as I was searching, I found people who are so far gone, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong here, that they're so lost in the spiritual hunt or journey that they forget about the real world. I'm going to give you an example. I was in Marin County, California, beautiful, beautiful place. And I was driving up this road, up this mountain, and I passed by, it's called the Something Rock Retreat. I can't remember the first word, Something Rock. And I passed it, and I thought, that looks beautiful. And then I turned around. I said, I got to go back and see what this is. So I parked my car, and it was just a big property, and there were some picnic tables. And there are a couple of people sitting by the picnic table, and they're watching a snake. And I just walked over, and they didn't, turn and acknowledge me. And I just kind of looked, and I go, oh, is it poisonous? No, it's beautiful. So they're watching the snake, and I watched for about a minute and a half, and then I saw enough of the snake, and I noticed a woman sitting at another table. So I walked over, and I said, what is this place? And she told me, oh, it's a retreat. It's a meditation center. And I said, oh, how did you get here? And she goes, oh, I was a teacher in New York, and I was so stressed out, and I just needed to find myself, and I came here, and I'm trying to find the space between the breath in and the breath out. This is what she said to me. I didn't know what she was talking about. Honestly, I listened, and I nodded. The space between the breath in and the breath out? I said, how long have you been here? Get ready for this. 9 years. She's walked away from what I believe to be real life to search for the space between the breath in and the breath out. And she's sitting there 9 years and still looking. So again, this may be my bias, but I think when you find somebody who's truly balanced, they're living well. But when people become too tilted one way, I feel like they're missing out. Do you? Or am I just not at that spiritual level yet?
Well, I think humanity is calling for us to really get down from the mountain and integrate with the rest of humanity. I mean, if we get the spiritual message, this is a time to share, because humanity is in a fork in a lot of different ways. And so I truly agree with you that, if I look at my life, sometimes I have an inkling of past life. I've spent a lot of time in ashrams meditating. And I knew when I came here that this was not, even though I'll tell you, most of my life, I kind of felt needed to be in an ashram meditating because I've done that in the past. But this life, and I think all of us have to look at our lives, this time is a very crucial time for the evolution of humanity. And we need to take the ashram from up in the mountain into the darkness of the world, if you say it. I mean, for us to really transform the world, the light has to come down to where the darkness is. I mean, this is an allegory, but we have to integrate the spiritual aspect of humanity with the human aspect. And that's really the only way we can transform what's going on in the world right now. So the world needs more spiritual people to wake up and come to the world and mix and integrate and empower and inspire people to really integrate the spiritual practice into their daily lives.
Spiritual orgasm, myth or reality?
Oh, I think it's a reality.
Well, that's how we should market your course. People will come. No pun intended.
I like that.
Yeah. So, knowing that we have about 7 minutes left right now, but I'm telling you, if you're willing, we'll have you back again and again and again, because there's so much that we can talk about. But knowing that we have 7 minutes left, what do you want the people who are watching, listening to know? It's your microphone now, so share what you think is important.
I think one of the most important aspects is we really need to listen to ourselves more and connect, and realizing that our thoughts and our emotions and our judgments are not where we are. So how do we connect with the aspect that is beyond up, down, have and not have? Is to really start meditating. Because in meditation, we connect with that aspect that has all the answers to all of humanity's problem. We are more, as we come into this planet, we have two roles. Most of us are very comfortable, including myself, as a human being. But there is this divine aspect that we have within ourselves. And how do we nurture that? And part of it is to really get connected with our body, the physical body, through yoga, different exercises, but also pranayama, which is the managing of the breath. Because through managing our breath, we can manage your emotion. Because we can't connect when the mind is continually rushing and doing 10,000 things and multitasking all the time. So we need to take time out and connect. And that's possibly why it would take for us to do courses, to be able to know how to connect. Because most of us have no knowledge how to really connect with that. Most of us are not aware that we are breathing until we start being short of breath. So it's becoming aware and becoming more of the observer what's happening within you, and which is kind of so important. But how do we manage the mind? Nowhere in our life have we been told, if I'm angry, what do I do? If I'm upset, what do I do? If I'm fearful, what do I do? So that's where acquiring the skill to manage your emotions. See, what happened is let's say we're in a difficult relationship and it's very tumultuous. It's like I have a husband and things are not going well. So what I do is I get rid of the husband and I go to Maui.
You kill him?
Well, I get a divorce. No. Yeah, let's make it easier. So get a divorce and you go to Maui. And you're sitting in Maui and it's so beautiful. I mean, it's like heaven on earth.
Yeah.
And what happened to our mind when you're sitting there? All of a sudden, our mind goes back to the mainland where whatever the drama was. And so we have problem when we think we can change the external environment. But what really is happening is we need to change our mind. Because the quality, the status of our mind determine the quality of our life. What do I mean by that? One day you wake up and you feel good, right? Mm-hmm. And you get out of bed, the entire day is what? Feeling good. Mm-hmm. And one day you wake up, you feel bad. And the entire day is what? Everything frustrates you. So what do we need to change? Do we really need to change the external environment, the people around us? Or do we need to learn how to manage our mind? emotions. Because when we do that, we can start creating from within.
So before you kill your husband, close your eyes and meditate that you're in Maui.
And then you don't need to kill him.
Right.
M3, saving husbands around the world.
You're saving lives again. Do you ever get really frustrated because you know people need what you've got and they're just not willing to try?
I think frustration is part of being human in a way, but I don't let it bother me so much because, as you say, sooner or later, the person who needs it will come.
See, we deal with this every day. We help people get their lives back. And I say that because we hear that often. Thank you for giving me my life back. Because we empower people. And very often they get very confused by a medical system that takes away their power. That says, take this drug, go for this procedure, and pray. And we say, no, be proactive and move and change the way you eat and change your environment and pray and take control of your mindset. And let's do all of these things. But when we meet people who so clearly would benefit from being given that power, and they go, no, my doctor's directing me. No, I need to take my medication. No, nothing works for me. Whatever the excuse is, honestly, there's immense frustration. Now, I've learned to move that to the side, but I'd be lying if I said it doesn't show up. So I'm wondering, as strong as you are in managing your emotions, don't you sometimes just get like you just want to grab them and shake them and go, but you need this?
Yeah, but that usually doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. But I'm curious if, looking at how tranquil and calm you are, I'm just wondering if you get that sort of human element because you want to help somebody, not because you're angry or evil, but just the frustration of you have a solution and people sometimes can't hear it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm learning more and more is that, when somebody may not be listening right now, but as long as you accept where they are and you keep connecting with them, sooner or later they'll come around. In other words, the person says no, but you accept that's where they are. And then over time, you keep connecting back with them, and every so often. And you'll be surprised, like 10 people may say, no initially, but over time, like another person shows up. It's like, oh my God, I wish I had done this before. And I think it's having that compassion and patience and just, and just being there for them. Because a lot of us, if we look at a lot of people, they don't know what is the best for them at that time. And if you have that knowledge within you, then you wait. It's almost like you hold that dream for them until they can acquire it. And that means just calling and say, hi, how you doing today? I don't have any answers for you yet, but how are you? And just to me, that reaching out and connecting.
Human connection.
Exactly. That alone, sooner or later, it's going to percolate in, and they would say, you know what? Hey, I want to do this. And you know what we see a lot? Like we tell somebody a year ago, do this course, and say, I'm not ready about it. And finally they do it. They go, oh my God, why didn't I do that a year ago?
Right.
And you said, well, hey, you know what? It's time now.
So for anyone who's listening right now, how do they find out more? Where do they go to take a course? What should they do?
Well, actually, we have a course coming up in February. And if you go online, technically the best thing is just give us a call or email me, or actually, because we're doing courses in biohackers, is to email myself, and it's RoseMarie T at artofliving.org, RoseMarie, ROSEM, and T as in tango, at artofliving.org, or you can get in touch with Kristen at Biohackers. And also I have a phone number, which is 305-572-0005.
That's a good number. That's easy to remember, 0005. That's good.
572-0005.
Okay, so going full circle before we wrap it up. Does the voodoo priestess know that you became a doctor?
I don't know. We got totally disconnected, but in spirit we are connected because he redirected my energy to where I needed to be.
And interesting that you mentioned voodoo early in your life and then you end up in New Orleans. Right? I mean,
yeah.
Voodoo seems to be a thing.
Definitely.
Yeah. But is there a spiritual element even to that? I know a little about voodoo. I do. I met somebody who taught me. She's actually a religious Jewish woman who became a voodoo priestess. And
Wow.
she went to New Orleans to stop the hurricanes. She has a group that every year in hurricane season, they do these practices So, prior to that, you think voodoo and you think of scary stuff. But there's an element of spirituality to ancient Greek practices, ancient Asian practices, ancient, I'm guessing, African and Haitian practices, right?
Definitely. Yeah, a lot of the ancient spiritual practices are definitely it's connecting to that aspect of yourself that can create miracle. It's like the rainmakers, you want, like you're saying, you want to stop the hurricane, you want to make it rain, the rainmakers. And so when you get to that aspect of consciousness, it's really the same thread that is weaving through humanity, is connecting to the miraculous aspect of our nature.
So she had some knowing that you absolutely believe beyond any doubt that she saw your future.
She did, because at that time I was supposed to be a Catholic nun in the Catholic Church. And that wasn't my path. That was my path.
This feels
idea
like
was
a
that?
separate show.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. Whose idea was that?
Because when I came in this world, I was so religious that I saw one of my past lives as a Catholic nun.
Wow.
And I thought this was it until I met this priest that says, no, you're becoming efficient from a spiritual healer to a physical healer. So it's like you said, now I'm like all around, and it's an integration of physical healing as well as spiritual, emotional, planetary healing. That's kind of where we all are moving toward. Wholesome healing.
Do you know what I feel from her? Light.
I just love her. Every time she walks in the room, I just love her. She lights it up, and I instantly feel at peace when she walks in. Anyone who is watching this right now,
is now at peace.
You have to get in this course with her. I mean, it's going to change your life. I don't know what else to say to our listeners. Please, do not wait. It's a big deal.
Let's heal the healers. Let's heal the people.
Yes.
And then let's get her to the Middle East.
Yeah.
Awesome.
World peace.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
We have a lot of people that we're going to help, and I'm very excited that RoseMarie's part of this.
This is no accident. As everybody that we connect with, because we're forming a healer nation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're on our way. RoseMarie, thank you so much.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Kristen, let's keep doing this.
I love it.
Okay.